As a technologist and having spent most of my career focused on the power of data and advanced analytics, I'm excited about the evolution of data, and I'm very optimistic about the potential opportunities that are in front of us. I've been at Google now for almost 4 years and have had the absolute pleasure of working alongside amazing and talented people here across Google. I've also had the pleasure and the opportunity to work with customers across the world. I've met with and worked with some of the world's largest retailers, manufacturers, financial institutions, sports organizations, and even governments. And, whenever I meet with people, they always ask me a few things. Some silly questions like, do people really ride bikes on campus? Or have you been down the slide? But in all seriousness, most of the time, the question that they ask me the most is like, how do I run like Google? To many, Google is known for its culture and its innovative mindset. But Google's also known for our excellence with data. And so customers that I meet, they're looking to capture that same agility with data and product innovation that they've seen in many of our products like Search or Maps or Gmail. They often start to ask questions not so much about digital transformation and technology, but like about people. They focus on the people portion of people, process, and technology, which I think is a great place to focus. And the default assumption, though, is that you have to, in order to have Google's innovative spirit, you need to double down on technical skills. Now, don't get me wrong, we do have quite a lot of great engineers. In fact, we have great people across the business. We look for people who are great problem solvers and who are really curious and focused on how data can deliver solutions to problems. But the not so secret, what we've done to propel ourselves to success is that we've built out systems that expand the potential of all of those great employees. Empowering their curiosity with the ability to solve problems, putting capabilities into the existing and familiar tools that they use every day. So that with very little training, they're able to do new things that maybe they weren't able to do before. Now, this isn't just great for business. This is actually great for our employees. Learning is so important to career development. And I spend a lot of time talking to the employees about career development. It keeps our employees engaged and it gives them new skills that, that feel familiar because they're in the tools that they're used to. So let's get back to the question we started with. How do you run like Google? The question is really, how do you help your employees leverage their curiosity to do more, but where they're at today? Delivering like technology that can help them do more today with the skills they have today. That's what we're trying to do with Google Cloud. We want to provide the technology that helps you achieve your business objectives. And we think the best way to do that is to empower your employees where they're at today. Organizations vary greatly, and the roles within those organizations can differ quite a bit. But this is a pretty good example of a sample organization, or at least the personas in an organization. We have the business users that are embedded within the various lines of business. Take sales or marketing, maybe supply chain. They're dealing with the day-to-day business, and they need information on things like, how's the business doing? What's changing? What's causing that change, and really what action should be taken? They rely on the data analysts to help provide that information, provide those answers by curating the insights from the data. If done well, analysts actually produce inspiration, and hopefully at the speed of the business. Now, they rely on the data analysts to help provide them with the answers, but those data analysts rely on the data scientists to look at some of the problems that maybe we don't know the answers to, or leveraging some of that data to build predictive models, not necessarily looking at what the business is doing today, but maybe what's next or what's coming. And all of these people rely on the data engineers. Let's not forget them. All these people depend on the data that without the data engineers, the data probably wouldn't be available or usable. Ultimately, the customer of all this data is the business user or that decision maker. So all these other roles are really focused on providing answers or providing inspiration to those business users. This diagram, you'll notice, has two axes. The first, how well do you know your data? Do you know the content? Do you know the structure? And then the other axis is really talking about how well do you know what you're looking for? In some cases, you may not know. You might just be exploring. Perhaps you're looking for inspiration. Perhaps you're looking for the next trend. Maybe looking for interesting clusters or maybe anomalies. In the simple case here is where you know your data and you know what you're looking for. This is fairly easily solved with a data analyst who can write SQL queries, maybe pull together a dashboard. The harder case is when you don't know your data and you don't even know what you're looking for. That's really the hardest problem. And in many times, this might be the most interesting and often quite valuable. That's when you would likely need the data scientists and the data engineers to work together. Now, historically, capabilities have been siloed in sort of this rigid value chain across the organization. Those closest to the business sometimes lack the technical capabilities or the technical skills to drive the data analysis. And those with the strongest technical skills maybe are a little bit too far away from the business, and so they don't really have a grasp on the business needs. Now, this creates a bottleneck almost by default. The requirements and requests that move back and forth along this spectrum, you create queues for these technical resources, and they're going to have to prioritize what they work on. Inevitably, we're striving for data democratization, but those efforts fall short because having data without the tools to interpret the data is really the same as not really having data at all. So as we look at each persona in this value chain, we're focused on expanding the capabilities, leveraging a platform, that can take the skills and tools that people use today, but bring net new capabilities. It's not sufficient to have a platform that maybe checks all the boxes, because often the tools that are needed or the critical capabilities are only available to the most advanced users. The desire to democratize the way people use data in your business, like Google does, likely is going to fail. So businesses need to not only just break down data silos, they need to break down the silos that exist between these personas. And that's exactly Google's approach. Automate much of the infrastructure, and that means we can abstract the capabilities that are typically associated with those technical personas. And now we can deliver those capabilities to business personas. It also means that for those technical personas, we can actually help them to do their jobs faster, which means that they'll free up their capacity for more advanced projects. Let's take a closer look at some of these personas. When we think about the people that are closest to the business, these are often the business analysts. They're often embedded in functions like HR or marketing, sales. And they represent the increasingly data-hungry workforce that's eager to rely on analytics to make better decisions. Traditionally, accessing data has been difficult and time-consuming. Business analysts rely on data analysts to get the reports they need, but this can be a real bottleneck. Modern tools are now available that help eliminate these problems and really leveraging state-of-the-art features. For example, business analysts can more easily access analytics in real time. Our world is moving from a world of these daily, weekly, monthly reports, really to just-in-time reports and interactive queries that are intuitive in nature. This enables us to do a lot more in terms of data-driven workflows and applications. Many business analysts rely on spreadsheets, so we want to deliver capabilities in their familiar tools. Imagine removing the need to learn SQL or rely on an analyst to access data in a data warehouse. Instead, use familiar spreadsheets and eliminate those barriers, both to analysis and to sharing. Imagine using natural language queries to allow any user to ask questions across the data warehouse. Imagine asking something like, how might a hurricane delay deliveries in the Northeast? And what about the Southwest? These are questions that can be answered using natural language. Expanding the technical capabilities of these business analysts through all these modern solutions has many advantages that not only empower this data-hungry workforce, also it allows those technical folks to free up time to work on more strategic projects. Okay, so now what about the data analysts? These are really the SQL experts in the organization. Traditionally, they have been the source of business intelligence, reporting, answering questions for the business. They're close enough to the business units that their work to understand the challenges of the managers and the executives, they're able to tackle these questions with the data in the data warehouse. With the increase in the amount of data and also the variety of data, we really have a dependence now on data engineers. And if you're not careful, that can be a bottleneck to these data analysts. There's been an increased need to access third-party sources. These are maybe not your traditional business silo solutions or data sources. These are new sources that maybe you haven't used before in your business. The abundance of data requires new analysis tools that previously have been leveraged predominantly by the data scientists. As we look at expanding the capabilities of a data analyst, let's first start with continuous access, to data within without having to worry about the storage. With this capability, you now can have data analysts doing transforms within the enterprise data warehouse. Less reliability or less dependence, if you will, on data engineers to manage those data pipelines allows the data analysts to connect to data sources in real time using simple SQL, resulting in even further eliminations of these bottlenecks. Now, another advantage comes from increasing the efficiency of this third-party data access. It means removing data silos and allowing for easy joint analysis of data across different platforms. One of the capabilities that I think will be extremely powerful moving forward is this power of bringing machine learning capabilities into the data warehouse itself. This allows data analysts to work with machine learning models using simple SQL. Remember, these are your SQL experts. These are the tools they know how to use. The data analysts can focus on more strategic work, ultimately resulting in faster iteration and better decision making. All right, so now let's talk about those data scientists. These are often arguably the most difficult skills to find. Multidimensional data, statistics, machine learning, business operations. Data scientists, frankly, are not only difficult resources to find, they're very expensive resources. Companies assign their highest value projects to these resources, and there's often a queue for their time and a prioritization effort. So how can we make them more productive? Well, if we free them up for more higher value complex work, net new projects, we can do that in a number of ways. They have problems accessing data today. And so because data is siloed, and you need to break down the data silos, but you can leverage automated migration tools to make access to data easier. Research shows that traditionally, data scientists actually spend 90% of their time on data engineering tasks, and really only 10% on machine learning. So if we can automate that process, that data migration and the operational complexity of data engineering, we can dramatically change that percentage. Data scientists have their preferred development environment, not too unlike most developers. Using something like portable notebooks means that they can search for insights across different data sources in a familiar environment. Now, what if they could speed up their model building as well? Remember, no matter how talented data scientists are, they also do a lot of trial and error to figure out the best model and the parameter tuning. The ability to deploy out-of-the-box machine learning models, the ability to provision the necessary resources to do this, and to auto-detect the best model for a problem, this can really help speed up the machine learning AI development and increase efficiency, which increases the bandwidth for those net new projects. All right, last but not least, we're not going to forget about the data engineers. Data engineers are constantly a strained resource. They have pulls from all different directions within the business, from data analysts to data scientists. They need to keep that data tap flowing, if you will. Now they have more sources than ever, the more variety than ever, and all of that needing to be done in real time. How can we make them more productive? Well, previously we talked about giving data analysts self-service ability to tackle jobs they used to rely on data engineers for. Well, by doing this, we free up the data engineers to take on some of the more complex tasks, like bringing in new data sources or driving real-time capabilities. By automating some of these other tasks, we're able, such as auto-scaling the infrastructure, things like that, we're able to focus them on the problems that are really important to the business and not on the infrastructure problems. We're also helping them with a broad choice of tools and languages, allowing the engineers to be more productive and efficient, working in the tools that they're familiar with. I hope you're hearing a common theme here. Data engineers, they need help with data quality and lineage, and this gives data engineers real-time data delivery capabilities to ensure the accuracy of the data, which is super important for a business user. It also helps them with the real-time capabilities. Recently, we're seeing a steep increase in the need for real-time. Who has time to wait for data to load into a data warehouse? Enabling the data engineer with capabilities to perform event-driven analysis really allows the business to make smarter decisions and respond in a timely fashion. So let's go back to that organization we looked at before. What are we really trying to do here? If you think about our organizational model again, we are breaking down the data silos, but we're also breaking down the skill silos, reducing the dependencies so people don't have to go back and forth and waste a lot of time. We're also really improving the productivity of the various roles by bringing net new capabilities into the tools they're most familiar with. We're automating much of the infrastructure across the data lifecycle and providing a comprehensive portfolio of products. This is designed to help people more easily and more quickly meet their business objectives. I want to give you an example. We've made it possible for data analysts to conduct machine learning experiments inside the data warehouse using standard SQL. We've also, for those business analysts, analyzed BigQuery data directly in Sheets. Again, familiar tools and empowering with capabilities. If you map all of these into that new data landscape, and if you take the same example, when you have known data and known queries, the business analyst no longer has to wait for the data analyst. It's self-service. They can use either custom dashboards or maybe connected sheets, or they can use natural language queries. And if we move to the more complicated scenario where you know your data, but you're exploring, or you don't know what you're looking for, you need a data analyst or a data scientist. Well, now a data analyst can use sophisticated machine learning capabilities in the data warehouse itself to do the job. And we leave the data exploration for the data scientists. Let's look at a concrete example. We have all been impacted by this global pandemic. The United Nations Office for Project Services, or UNOPS, helps the UN and its partners deliver peace and security, humanitarian, and development solutions. When the COVID-19 pandemic started, UNOPS needed to quickly assess the status of their operational capacity in order to assist governments and coordinate a global response. We talked earlier about agility. Tushar Dige, the CIO at UNOPS, talks about how they used a connected sheet with data from their BigQuery data warehouse, combined with manual status inputs on the same sheet. So now colleagues in more than 80 countries were able to collaboratively provide inputs. The result, in the form of pivots and charts, were instantly available live. It took less than 3 hours to design and implement the solution, and they had status information from these 80 countries within the first 24 hours. What I admire most about this example is how individuals from across so many borders were able to receive and contribute critical data to the UN Ops team in a familiar interface that was easily combined with data from BigQuery to produce and share the insights desperately needed. Data analysts at UN Ops weren't necessarily reliant on the data engineers to build these pipelines, to bring together all the country-level data. Now, we all know that every organization, every industry, it's being transformed by data, and that's pretty exciting. I want to leave you with this question. How are you empowering your employees with those data superpowers so that they can take their creativity, their curiosity, and be the change agents in your organization? Thank you for your time today, and to learn about how you can expand your data analysis to a broader audience in your organization.